Well, I think it's coffee time for me. It's been an early morning. We got up early before daylight so Cowboy could go pick up the Amish that are helping him today. I think it's just one guy out there, but so it was a good chance for me to bake my mama's molasses cookies. And they're in a jar really similar to her cookie jar that she would always put them in. Just a plain, kind of a square glass jar. And so I always remember the sound of the cookie jar lid coming off. It's amazing. As you get older, those little things come back to you. And I have to say, when you're younger, you take a lot of it for granted. And you think that's always going to be there. I wasn't going to go there at all. Anyway, they're delicious. They're delicious. So I'm going to have one with my coffee. Just like she would sit at her table. She had a chair at her table that she sat at a lot of times. And I have to tell you one memory. As she was getting older, you know, it gets harder. And she had a chair on rollers. It was kind of it really wasn't an office desk, but it was brown. It was kind of a leather, and it was on rollers. And in between her cookie baking and making a meal or whatever, she would sit down at her kitchen table and just take 5. She would cross her arms, and you might see her with her head down, just taking a quick snooze. And I'm starting to figure out why. Because as you get older, those little snoozes really make a difference. But she might sit down and she would have a little smaller cup. I like the bigger coffee cups, but she always liked the more dainty cups. And this probably goes back to her mom. But she would dunk these in her coffee. And we would all enjoy her molasses cookies. Us kids, us grandkids, the kids, my kids, and whatnot. So that's something that Grandma Nini always had. Most of the time she would have a jar of molasses cookies on her cupboard or the table if you stopped in for coffee. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just thinking back, you know, of how a person changes their thinking as you get older. And you think back of all those little things. I can look at my hands actually today, and the arthritis is starting to move into them, and they're turning and twisting, and I can look at them. I can see my mom's hands. Isn't that amazing? The crooked, knotted fingers, I can see my mom's hands. So as I sit here, I think back of things like that and enjoy the cookie. And you all, and my cup of coffee. But it's the little things in life now that really mean a lot. And I'm sad to say that I let myself get older before I really appreciated all that. So even the Christmas gifts, the simpler, the better. Things that you can use on your homestead. It's not all about, I guess, the jewelry and the roses and fancy dresses for me. Right now I was thinking back of things that I really could use on my homestead. And I thought I would start making a list for Cowboy. He's pretty good at taking little hints, but I think I will just tell him. I need to go ahead and I need a new mop. My floors need a mop. The mop that I'm using, the rags, the yarn on it is shredding, it's rotten, it catches on everything, it rips, so you're picking up little pieces. So I'm thinking a new mop is a good thing. Pot holders. My pot holders are really looking rough because we use so many on the wood cook stove, and they get to looking pretty black and nasty and dirty, and no matter how much you wash them, they still look pretty rough and they're thinning out. So I thought, I'm going to tell him I need some pot holders. But I like the certain types too. I like them a little thinner. I don't like the big mittens, so I'll have to specify to him. A broom. You could always use a good broom. Another thing that I really like are some new kitchen towels. That's always fun to get. And just the drying dish towels. Another thing that I don't have on my homestead, and I guess I have not had for, oh, I bet 30 years. I've always done dishes by hand most of the time. I do have dishwashers, and I try to use them mainly on holidays, or if I'm really busy and I've got a big crowd, and I'll use the dishwasher then. And I'm trying to get my mindset now even to have it empty on Friday morning and start using it for the weekends. But it's hard to break old habits. I don't know about you, but it's hard to break old habits. So I do a lot of dishes by hand, which it's always good to keep the hands clean. It helps with, and there again, we go back to my mom. She would always say that warm water felt good on her hands. And I understand that completely now, what that meant, because this hand now is twisting. And so I know what a warm sink of water feels like to your arthritic hands. So I do my dishes by hand. But I just always either lay a towel out on my counter, or I'll just flip them, rinse them, flip them upside down on the other sink. And so I thought, you know, a dish drain. I'll ask for a dish drain. That would be very, very cool. I'm always using wood spoons, so I will put that on my list for him. Bowls or casserole dishes that have a lid. That way you can get rid of more plastic that we use. And I don't really have a lot of plastic left on the homestead. I'm trying to shy away from all of that. And but I do like to use the enamelware, which, like this, if you were following me earlier on a video, I picked this up at a secondhand store, and it's in such good shape. It's a replica actually, but it is in such good shape. The lid doesn't fit really tight, but I did, when I cooked a roast in it, I put foil over it and then put the lid on. But things like this I love to go find. And that's another thing I thought, if our weather holds, I will say, take me to, there's a marketplace, there's Liberty and Vine in the city. Not that I like to go to the city, but they have a couple stores, yesteryears, and that might be what I want to do for Christmas, is take an afternoon and have him drive me there and let me walk through and see all the used things, the enamel, the cast iron, the wooden spoons, the wooden bowls, the crocks, the teapots, the things that I can actually use on my homestead. A friend last summer for my birthday gave me one of the old cookie cutters, and it's a nice big rounded one, but it's got little dollops all around it. And it's your aluminum old-fashioned cookie cutter, but it's an extra big one. I love it. I have not got to use it yet, but I want to use it to make my grandma's raisin-filled cookies with. And things like that are so much fun. You just make your cookie batter, cookie dough, roll it out. You cut one whole piece, and put this mixture of your raisins, cooked raisins in it. And I think walnuts would be really great. I don't remember her putting walnuts in it, but I might try some walnuts and raisin mixture cooked down, and you put a dollop of that in the center, cut another cookie dough, put that on top, and use some forks and press around, and then she would bake those. Oh my, those were good. That was my grandma. That was my dad's mom. So there's another memory to think back on. But now I have the big cookie cutter, thanks to a good friend that knows I love that old antique stuff. So I might make those. I thought about later today mixing up my mom's fruitcake. I should be able to find time in between the meal and whatnot and get that mixed up today. But it's just the simpler things. It's those old things now that are so heavy on my heart and drawing me back to old times, to memories that no one can take away. Life gets pretty hectic. And if God's taken out of our lives, folks can find the worst in everything. Doesn't matter what it is. But if we have God in our life, everything can be good. Whether we're in a bad situation, if we know we've got the good Lord above on our side and helping us through, you know, it is what it is. It's awesome. It's fun to sit back and watch and rely on the good Lord. And so yeah, it's the old things. It's the good ways. As I sit here now, I see, let's see if I can pull it out without tearing the whole kitchen apart. Here's another pan. My mom had a pan like this too. We both got them at the same time. And it's a big enamel pan. But it's a favorite. You can mix your bread up in it. Popcorn balls. It's really, or go to the garden with it. I try to be careful with it. I do have a hole drilled so that I can hang it up. And I need to put a nail on my wall and get it hung back up again. But I love things like this. The old ways. And that is a replica too, but it brings back the memories of the old days, I guess. So, and the crock bowls, like I used this morning, mixing up my cookies, my mom's. It was my grandma's bowl on my dad's side. And I found my mom's molasses cookie recipe. And so I mixed up a double batch in that bowl. And it's just fun. There was no stress about it. There was no, oh, I gotta hurry and get these done. I enjoyed every minute of it, every stir of the wooden spoon. And the memories started coming out. And it's the little things, folks. Don't wait till you're my age to start really enjoying them and appreciating them. It's the little things. This cookie jar full of homemade cookies that you had many years ago and for several years. If you've got someone that you have still alive and they do something like this, I highly recommend get that recipe now. Get it now. If there's a favorite, I wish I had my grandma's brownie recipe with the fudge frosting. It, you know, I can taste it today. I know what it tastes like, but it's the little things like that that are more important than Black Friday and the hustle bustle of the aisles in the store. It's chaos. It's chaos, and it's too commercialized. Start thinking back of the simpler ways, the older ways, and think of things that you really, really could use on your, and it might not be ideal for a Christmas gift, but if it's something that you use daily and it's part of your daily routine, like my mop or my broom or my something in my kitchen, yeah, it would be fun to have a big Instapot, I guess, or a air fryer. But then I've got to decide, okay, where do I put this big thing? And they would probably be very convenient. And who knows, maybe someday I will have one. But I guess for right now, in my mind, I'm thinking these little things. The little things are what matter. So anyway, I'm going to finish my coffee. I have a lunch to get ready. And then possibly mix up my mom's fruitcake. And I have her handwritten letter. If y'all missed my video before, not her letter, but her recipe, her handwritten original. And if you missed it before, all it is she had a cake that she made throughout the year, poor man's cake, and it's a raisin cake. And I always knew that she used that recipe. I always knew that she changed it up a little bit at Christmas time to make it, turn it into a fruit cake, which she knew I loved. Well, at the time, I took it for granted. I loved the loaves that she gave me, and I enjoyed every bite. I would hide them away, and I'd have a piece every once in a while with a cup of coffee. I loved it. But at that time, I didn't think about getting that recipe or finding out exactly how she did that. Always assumed she's going to be there. I'm always going to get this fruit cake to enjoy. Doesn't happen that way. And anyway, I ended up with that recipe. And it was a touching time when I found it in my treasures. It was the original, and it's for the poor man's cake. But on the back side of the recipe card, on the very bottom, it says, "This is how I make my fruit cake." And she explains it, and she adds her nuts and her apple, and she adds her maraschino cherries and a candied pineapple, and then she will put them in bread pans and make a smaller loaf. And so I have that treasure now. I was very lucky and fortunate to be able to get that. But had I not, I would wonder for years and years, how did she do that? Why didn't I ask her? So I encourage you, if you've got someone special in your life and they do a lot of hands-on, take photocopies of recipes. Find out how they did those. Take time to sit and have a cookie and a cup of coffee and ask questions. Don't be in such a hurry all the time with the older people, the older folks. They have so much knowledge. So much knowledge. I spent a lot of time with my grandpa, and that I will always remember too. Lots of times with him. Lots of memories. I'm glad that I have them tucked away. Same with my folks. Love my folks dearly. I was there for years for them. For years. You couldn't have drugged me away. So enjoy it. Cherish them. Anyway, folks, I'm going to finish this cup of coffee and get on with the day. I just wanted to sit down and have a chat. Bye-bye.